Hi there, I'm Jim.
I'm Claire.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Micah.
Let's talk teaching. Welcome to Let's Talk Teaching, a podcast from the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology here at Illinois State University. I'm Jim G. It's the end or nearing the end of the fall 2020 semester, so we wanted to check in again with some students who we talked to early in the semester to see how things are going. So joining me today, I'm excited to have you all back. Joining me today, let's start with Claire. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And I should mention Claire is in the College of Business. She's a marketing sophomore, right? I think you're all sophomores.
Yes.
Okay. And then we also have Micah. Hi, Micah. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. And I want to we're going to dive in more depth about how are you doing, because I think everyone's interested in hearing that. And you're in family and consumer sciences, is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And last but not least, we have Megan. Hi, Megan. You're in communication sciences and disorders, right?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming back. And I'll say off the top, we will have a link to our past episode. And I really encourage people to listen to it if they haven't, because we had a really good discussion when we weren't really sure how the semester was going to unfold. It was about 3 weeks into the semester. You all had some very interesting observations about what different instructors, different professors were doing for you to help you kind of cope with the extraordinary situation of everything being moved online. And in some cases with your classes, everything being moved online really quickly. Megan, if I can, I'd like to start with you and just ask, how's it going? What has changed over the course of the semester? What's still working well?
So, not a whole lot has changed since the beginning. Some of my classes have switched from synchronous to asynchronous as we wrap things up. Teachers have still been really consistent with making sure they give out lots of reminders for assignments and exams, which has been really helpful in helping the semester go smoothly.
Great. Micah?
Yeah, it's been a really great semester. It's definitely been different. I would say that, yeah, I agree with Megan. Not much has changed, but I definitely, settled into a more stable routine since we last talked. And that was really helpful because at the beginning, I was definitely feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I remember thinking like, what am I going to say? Because I'm going crazy. But yeah, definitely it's gotten a lot easier to, communicate with teachers and go to Zoom and be on time and, just get everything done that needs to be done.
Claire, how about you?
I'm just the exact same as Micah and Megan. My professors have really continued to, communicate really easily about homework assignments and tests that we have due this coming week or next week, and just that open communication still has really helped me out, achieve the grades that I've been wanting to, and just have a pretty overall smooth experience this fall semester.
So, Micah, you just had mentioned that you found ways to cope over the semester. So can you give us an example of some of the things that you've done or how your routine developed over the course of the semester?
Yeah, well, I've definitely found that I work better in certain times during the day. Personally, I like to get up and go. So my first class is at 8, and I go to that, and I try to be really consistent, even though I know 8 o'clock sounds a little early, but it's actually really helpful because I get up at 8, I go to class. I might have a class later on, but once I'm going, I really go until about 2 or 3, and I know that probably around 3:30, my brain is off. So yeah, that's one way that I cope is to work within those certain hours. If I can get in homework from 7 to 9, sometimes that's great, but I'm just not a 3 a.m. person. And that has been a great coping mechanism. I
Mm-hmm.
also just have been working on making sure that I take breaks. I just got back from a walk right before we're talking here, and that was really great to clear my mind. Other little things too, just knowing when I need to eat, and maybe it's at 12, maybe it's at 2, and just keeping with good schedules.
Keeping a routine has been really helpful for me too. I work 2 different jobs on campus, and
Mm-hmm.
so being able to have my set work schedule that's consistent every week, and then being able to adjust my homework time. My week is pretty consistent from getting up in the morning, going to the gym, getting a quick shower in, doing some homework, going to class, and then going to work, and then coming home making dinner. has been a pretty solid routine for me recently.
I think something that's been helpful for me is that even when my classes have switched to asynchronous, I still set aside that same time of day that I would have class to work on that homework and make sure that I'm still staying on top of things and staying consistent with my schoolwork so that I don't fall behind.
That's an interesting take, and that's one I might pass along to some of my students. Actually, I think that there's sometimes the feeling that asynchronous means it's extra, and yeah, I think it's really successful that you can schedule that time to work on it. It just means you're not having that immediate connection, but there's still work to do, right?
Yep.
So, and I'll just open this up for anyone. What surprised you about this semester as it proceeded?
I think personally for me, I was surprised at how quickly the professors are able to respond to our questions because I know that they have their own grading and other things that they need to be working on during the day. But I had sent out an email to a couple of my professors last weekend asking about projects, and they respond within 24 hours. And usually, professors, they sometimes say, like, oh, I won't be close to my computer over the weekend, but they have been very quick to responding, which is very helpful in completing projects on time and just being able to work on stuff whenever I need to get it done.
I agree, Megan. The communication with professors has been awesome this semester and really, really helpful because, I mean, yeah, sometimes even faster than 24 hours for me. But one thing that I noticed is that a lot of my classes that meet together, I just feel like we have a really good bond, something that we might not have gotten in like in-person learning because, everybody just sits down, does class and goes. But I feel like I really got to know people in my classes through like breakout rooms, and I wasn't expecting to meet people and to get to know them that well, and to get to know professors that well in a classroom setting. And that has been really, really cool to see happen.
To follow up with Micah's point, I've had some different group projects in classes, and just like I'm just overall surprised on how well like we've been able to all work together, with different group chats and being able to meet on Zoom, once a week. I'm just surprised that we've been able to, do that, because think about it, like a year ago, that wouldn't have even been really an option.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great to hear that's working out for you. Are you using any technologies or anything like that? Like I know GroupMe has become very popular among students. Are you using that to help keep up with classes and stuff?
Yes, for sure. That's something that I use pretty much on the daily. I have, I think, two classes that have group chats. Megan and I are in the same class for one of them. And so we're always like, wait, is this what we're supposed to do? And then I also have that for some of my RSOs and extracurriculars. That's been great for connecting with students, even those who, I'm living at home, but I'm still near campus. There's some people who are living 2 hours away from campus and they're still able to be involved. And yeah, GroupMe has been very, very helpful this semester.
Not
That's
only
great.
with GroupMe, but we've also been using Band. It's a website, but also an app that we can use. I know that a couple of my different classes have been using it, but also like my business fraternity on campus has also been using it.
Great, that's great to hear. And for these GroupMe groups, I guess they are. I'm not as familiar with GroupMe as I probably need to be. Have these been organized by your instructors, or are these things that just kind of naturally, organically came up among you students?
Now, our students will send out their numbers into like the Zoom group chat so somebody can compile them all into the group me. And so it's something that we run on our own and take care of so that way we can all stay connected with one another even when we aren't in person.
Oh, that sounds awesome. So, in terms of, at this point in the semester, normally everyone would be kind of feeling the burden of those final projects being due, final exams are coming up. How is that like for all of you this semester compared to last year? And are you doing anything in particular, or are your professors doing anything in particular to prepare you for that?
I would say the stress of finals and projects feels the exact same as last year. Not much has changed. There's still the scary deadlines that you have to hit to get everything done on time. But everybody has still been like really quick to respond and meet and work with you. And like I know one of my projects was a group project, so we had to set up our own Zoom and figure that out. And sometimes it actually does work better to meet over Zoom because you can do it from virtually anywhere. And it's been nice to just be able to meet with them at whatever time we have.
Yeah, I'd agree. It still is scary, and I'm still like, oh my goodness, I've got a bunch of tests right when we get back from our fall break. But I feel like I definitely have more time right now because, I'm staying inside, trying to stay safe, protect other people and myself. And so, yeah, I'm like social life is not as much of a high priority. So that gives me more time to focus on these projects, tests, all of that. So I don't feel as stressed as I usually do. Talk to me in a week and a half, and I'll be a completely different person. But I do feel that like being virtual, it takes out the time that you might be, walking from class to class, and I can get a lot done in 10 minutes. So
Hmm.
it's definitely it's a little different, but it is still very scary.
Plus with the whole like online experience, I just feel as though I have a better idea of like when all my assignments are due, just because like when in-person classes it was more your professor would be like, oh, by the way, we have a test next Friday, like, but now with online, that because it's already on like the class calendar. Because like in the past, like my syllabuses for in-person teaching, like I feel like my professors would always be like, hey, we're changing this real fast, like this due date's going to be different, both online courses and professors being able to do recorded lectures. Everything has stayed at a pretty consistent pace.
That's interesting. So would it be fair to say that there are things you've experienced that you would like to see professors continue to do
Mhm.
once we get back into normal times, whatever that's going to look like? Is that fair to say?
Yes, most definitely. I'm the type of gal that will plan out months in ahead. Like I've been planning out stuff I'm doing in January already, or even for like next year with like apartments. And so just being able to get the idea in the very beginning of the semester when like, this test is or this big assignment is due and stuff like that just helps me plan out my stuff. Cause I put that on my calendar and I'll adjust my work schedule to that or I'll adjust like my workout times even and just like different stuff like that just so I have enough time to get it all done.
I definitely, I really appreciate the time that professors have taken to meet with me over Zooms. I'm in a Spanish class, and my professor, I reached out and just said, "Hey, could we, give me some tips on my writing?" And it was super nice. He met with me for like 45 minutes, and we, tackled my paper and just like looked at different things, even the tiniest things. He was really helpful, and he was super encouraging. I've had multiple professors. If I stay and ask questions after class, like, Micah, you're really doing a great job. Keep up the good work. And I mean, last year as a freshman, I didn't really have the need to go to as many office hours personally. And so it's been nice to get that one-on-one time. And I think that something I would love to see kept up is, yeah, that one-on-one time, that openness to being available and meeting with us, and that encouragement, because you know what? We're not seeing very many people. And sometimes it's super easy. Like I'm alone doing my homework for, a lot of hours every day. And I'm like, oh, you can get really down on yourself. So it is very, very helpful to have that encouragement.
Megan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, just kind of like with what Micah said, it is very helpful to meet with professors. That's something I've tried to be more intentional about this semester, especially since I won't be seeing them face to face. I still like to be able to make that connection with them, and Zoom has been a really helpful way in doing that.
That's great to hear. And I just recorded an episode with a colleague in the School of Communication that should be on the feed now. And one of the last things we talked about was the fact that he opened up office hours on Zoom for the first time because of COVID, and found it to be a very rewarding experience. And he actually required students to meet with him. I don't know if any of your professors actually do that or not, but regardless, I think my hope is personally that as we get back into again whatever normal times look like, that this whole Zoom thing doesn't entirely go away, and especially for office hours, because I think it's just more convenient for everyone too, and it may be a little less intimidating. I don't want to put words in your mouths, but it may be a little less intimidating for some people, especially if they're really new to campus, to meet with a professor kind of in the safety of a Zoom space as opposed to having to go into their scary office and trip over all the books and all of that stuff. I had a question. I want to kind of turn our focus towards spring. It looks like spring is going to be very similar to fall in terms of how courses are delivered on our campus. Registration's been open for a few weeks now. One thing that I know that the departments on campus made an extra effort to do for spring registration was to list the modality or at least the best guess at what the modality of the course, every particular course is going to be. So did you notice that? And I'm just curious, and anyone can jump in, did that factor into your decision about what course to take?
So I did notice that whenever I signed up for classes, but I have like a very planned out schedule until I graduate, since I'll be graduating a semester early. And regardless of whether it was going to be online or not, those were the classes I was going to take. And all of mine are listed as online currently, which is kind of a bummer, but I understand that it is for the safety of all of us students and staff.
Yeah, I agree. Like I have a very planned out schedule too. I'm, similar to Megan, I am going to graduate early. And that was sometimes difficult to be like, oh, this might be online or in person. It was interesting to like create my schedule. I like to draw it out and put the blocks in for the times. But I have two labs and I already, assumed that they would be in person. And I'm fine with that because I'm really excited about these two labs. But all of the rest of them are online. So yeah, I did notice it, but it really didn't factor like too much into my decision of classes. It's pretty much the same as usual.
Mine's the same way. This semester, all my classes were actually asynchronous, so none of them met at like the exact same time, other than one lecture that was kind of like not optional. Like I would always go to it just because it was at 9:35, and I enjoy like getting up and going in the morning. But
Mm-hmm.
my professor recorded it for students that had to work in the morning or had other commitments. But next semester, all of my classes will be synchronous. It wasn't that much of a deciding factor when choosing my classes because like as the same with Micah and Megan, like my schedule I have and like I've planned out with my college of business advisor is very like strict. Like this semester I'm taking these, this
Mm-hmm.
summer I'm taking these, and
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't that much of a deciding factor, but it has been able to help me kind of like adjust my schedule for next semester with like work and just other like extracurricular activities that I have.
So this might be an unfair question for you, Claire, because you've had mainly asynchronous classes, but for all of you, do you have a preference? Do you prefer having that synchronous experience, or you know, are you able to make the best of an asynchronous experience and kind of work at your own pace and get done what you need to get done?
Personally, this semester especially, asynchronous has been really beneficial to me just because like my work schedule, I work during the morning and then the afternoon and just having classes in the early morning right before I go to work has been helpful. Like those ones I'm able to meet with, but the rest are all asynchronous, so I can do that on my own time. Next semester, I am looking forward, however, to the synchronous classes just because I'll have more of a connection with my professors, just because like I just don't feel as though I have that close of a connection with all of my professors just because some of them like really haven't had many office hours this semester or I haven't really been able to see their faces because they don't record their face on Zoom, which is one thing that I would hope like even next semester for like asynchronous classes, like maybe having their face in the corner of the Zoom when you watch it just so that you kind of get that little extra person to person
Mm-hmm.
connection, even though you're not,
Mm-hmm.
even with them or even at the same time having that class.
That's a great tip.
I would say that I definitely prefer synchronous if it is available. I really like interacting with my other classmates in the breakout rooms, and I like being able to ask my professors questions when they come up during the lecture. And so if I had to choose, I would choose synchronous, but I realize there are some benefits from asynchronous, like creating your own schedule. So it's been nice to have a little mix of both.
Yeah, I agree. I have half as synchronous and half as asynchronous. And I would say that for me, the synchronous classes that those I needed to be like on Zoom. I mean, I'm in organic chemistry and I really liked coming to class and, having my questions ready because, and for me, it's a little bit more of a difficult course and I needed that like everyday consistent, like teacher time. And that has been really helpful. Something that I wanted to hit on that Claire said earlier was her professor records the lectures. And I have a professor that does that too. And that has been really, really helpful because I like to show up to class every day, so I do. And it's nice to have the option to not, if I want to sleep in one day. But going back right before the test, that has been so helpful. Sometimes I've rewatched every lecture for like the 3 weeks that we've covered before the test because it's just great to have like a renewal of that information. So teachers, hear me right now. Please record your lectures if you can. definitely helpful.
Well, that's great advice, I think. So, a final question. What are you looking forward to the most in the spring? Or is there something that you're going to be actively avoiding in the spring that maybe you experienced this fall? How has this fall shaped what you think or what you want to achieve in the next semester?
I definitely think that this fall has helped me become more comfortable with Zoom and just doing everything virtually. Whenever we switched to online last semester, kind of haphazardly, like not really knowing what was going on, that was a much more stressful situation because we had no idea how to manage our time. We didn't understand like when some of the assignments would be due. It was just very confusing and kind of just thrown together at the last minute because nobody had any idea that it was going to happen. But now that we have like an entire semester under our belt of like actually having like carefully planned out lessons for on like designed specifically for online has been extremely helpful, and I think that it gives me like a better like hope or perspective for what next semester will bring, because I think that it'll be much more organized than what we experienced whenever it was just kind of thrown together at the last minute.
I'm also just excited for like my classes next semester. Um, this semester I was finishing up most of my gen eds and some of the more like not basic business courses that everyone has to take, but it's just the general studies ones. But next semester I'm starting to take a lot more of my marketing courses, so I'm super excited for that just because that is my major. And also I'm actually excited for like synchronous classes just because I'll be able to have more of a connection with my professors. Like of course last spring I had a really close connection because I was going to a bunch of office hours because I was in some difficult math classes. And then also just seeing my professors, like every day, every other day, whenever the course would meet. In this semester, just with like the asynchronous courses, I just haven't had as close of a connection with them. And I'm a very big people person. And so not having that connection is kind of a little bit difficult. But next semester, I'm for sure really excited for that. And then being able to put like a face to a name.
I think I'm most excited for I'm excited about all of my classes, but for my major, I'm in a food science lab next semester, and I've been in a food lab before, and it's really fun. We all have our white lab coats and our hats, and we all come in, and it's kind of like a party, a really fun learning party, and I'm really excited about that. But I'm also kind of excited about the fact that like this fall, I've learned that I can really get a lot done each day. And I really like making my own schedule when I can, even though sometimes it's like, oh, I can just skip this because it's me making myself do this. But yeah, I'm excited for the amount that I can get done next semester and mold my own schedule to what fits best for me.
I'm going to say right now, I think really fun learning party is my new favorite phrase. I like that. I like the idea that you have fun, even with what we've been kind of going through and the weirdness of 2020, that you can still look forward to having fun in the experience of learning. So Claire, Micah, Megan, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that's all the time we have for this episode of Let's Talk Teaching. Find out more about our podcast and the programming offered through the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology. Go to ctlt.illinoisstate.edu. For Megan, Micah, Claire, for all my colleagues at CTLT, until we talk again, happy teaching.